listening to Revolution Rampage. I'm Omar.
I'm Zach.
Amanda.
And today with us we have a special guest. I'll let him introduce himself. Go ahead.
Good evening, Revolution Rampage. This is Carolina Hurricanes PA announcer Wade Minter.
Woo! That was epic.
I don't actually talk like that in real life.
No, he just does that while he's in goal and Beerly. He's just like, he passes it over to left and I save.
That was my night after the Canes game last night, showing up for an 11 o'clock game at the Iceplex and finally kind of rolling into bed around 2.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you guys win?
We did not. It was a 6-5 loss. It was a consolation game, kind of last game of the season, and the team we were playing against, I think had like 3 regular members of their team, and everyone else was kind of an upper level player. So it was basically like playing an upper C game. I was getting peppered with shots. So, yeah, not a great night.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and by fun I mean a lot of, you probably had to put some ice packs on here and there.
Yeah, my knees are feeling it. I also agreed to sub in goal over at RCI for a team this evening, so I'm getting my gear all dried out so I can strap it back on again and go play at 8 o'clock tonight.
That sounds wonderful.
Hey, he's a war machine.
He is. He's just a warrior. He just doesn't know anything other than the game.
Yeah, I've had some busy weeks this season where I've had a couple of Canes games, I've had my 2 teams that I play on, and then have been asked to sub in goal for a couple other teams, so you definitely get your exercise.
Oh, that's wonderful. You inspire us all, Wade.
It is fun. Yeah, if you enjoy the sport, I didn't grow up playing it. I picked it up as an adult by getting some skates and taking some learn to skate classes and then taking some learn to play hockey classes and then getting on a team and playing. So, if I can do it as an unathletic guy from the tobacco fields of Southern Virginia, other folks can too. If you think you would enjoy the sport, it's certainly worth giving it a try.
That's right. For those who are listening, Wade has been on our show before, and if you go back into our history and listen to that wonderful episode, he does go back and retell his incredible story about how he came into the game and how he's picked up as an adult and played, which is incredible because it really shows that hockey is for everyone, and it really brings out the mythos of that hockey is only a sport to play if you are of a certain breed, of a certain place, and grew up in a certain area, and that's absolutely not true.
Yeah, there's a lot, the nice thing about the adult leagues here in Raleigh is there are people from a ton of different backgrounds, folks who moved here and been playing their whole life, couple up here and started playing at a young age, couple with folks that are from here, but are just in their kind of 30s, 40s, 50s, getting started. So it's a good mix of folks.
Awesome.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping to, when I get the chance here soon, to pick up and start improving my personal skill, and maybe I'm joining you. Who knows?
That's true. You could come skate with the Buccaneers or Motley Crue and have a good time.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. It might be a while.
I put my little hat in there and took my learn to play class and realized I'm bad at it. But I enjoy playing with Rayla though.
Yeah, Rayla, our little hockey mascot, she's getting better every day.
Oh my gosh, she's so good.
But speaking of Rayla, one of her teachers has gotten a big promotion.
I know, it's so exciting. I'm so happy for her.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Alyssa Gallardi, who is a professional women's hockey player, she's a very good friend of the podcast. We've had her on before. Check out that episode. She has been hired by the Carolina Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, go ahead and tell us a bit more.
Well, I think it's really great. I had a whole tangent that I went on, but since I woke up with no voice this morning, I'm just It's not working out. It's great because of who she is. She's a wonderful person. She does these great clinics and girls clinics with the kids around here. And she's always been so sweet to us and Rayla. But it's also huge for the hockey community in general. And everyone knows how passionate I am about women's hockey, and the fact that they're bringing a position in specifically for girls in this area that's, quote unquote, a non-traditional hockey market. I mean, it's just so big, and I was so excited about it when I heard about it the other day. It was one of these super tweets, and I probably got really annoying. But it's just, I was so excited because it's such a big step, and to bring attention to girls and women's hockey, not only in this area, but in general. I don't know if any other NHL teams have a specific girls and women's amateur hockey person, but I mean, how big is that? That was really, really exciting.
It's a gigantic step forward. That's what it is.
Yeah, I was in the Canes adult clinic that they held a few weeks ago, and Alyssa was one of the instructors there, and she's a brilliant teacher. She's so nice. Certainly one of the more skilled players to come out of the area, and having her on the team's payroll, I think, is going to be a big addition for not only the youth and amateur hockey world here in the Triangle, but who knows if the women's leagues keep growing? Maybe this is an in for Raleigh to get a women's team. So Alyssa is amazing, and I'm so glad she's part of the team on an official basis now.
Yeah,
we can only hope we get that women's team.
Yeah, that was my thought too, and I'm like, maybe this is the step in the direction, And the offer is still open. I did offer to quit my job with the city if they get a women's team and do whatever they need me to do. So it's still there, just for anyone.
Hashtag hire Amanda.
This
Right.
is wonderful for the Hurricanes because it's another leading portion of the team in their history. The team, even though it's only been in Carolina for a little over 20 years, has actually been a pathfinder in the NHL in many ways. I mean, even something as simple as the cheerleaders being out there on the ice, not really on the ice, but at the arena. That's something the Hurricanes, they were a pathfinder for. The fun and at the games and the storm surges and everything, showing that the sport is a sport played by young people who are seeking to have their fun, and it should be something that everyone should enjoy. So the Hurricanes now turning towards women's hockey and kind of starting something there to try to lead more and more people, young women, to play, girls of all ages, is something I think will take this team and put us really on the map. And I don't want to hear any more about anyone who talks about relocation, because this team belongs here with the community and with the people.
That was a very good statement right there, Omar. But let's move on to the next subject, which is, first off, we start off with the North Carolina teams, which obviously we go to the NHL and the Carolina Hurricanes, who are coming off a tough loss last night, but they are still one of the hottest teams in the NHL, period, the end.
Yeah, the saddest part of that loss isn't that they lost in front of a sold-out home crowd last night. It was the ending of a 7-game point streak. So they had a 7-game point streak in which they won 6 of the 7 games. That helped them really take a demanding kind of a presence in the Metro. But the Metro Division is ruthless this season, as every other season. There's nothing new here, folks. And right now, it looks like to be another season where 5 Metro teams will make the playoffs. We'll possibly leave another Atlantic team with a record that would get them into the playoffs in the West out in the dust.
And it's entirely possible that the sixth team in the Metro will be a playoff team and not make the playoffs. That they'd qualify in any other division.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it that the East for, so many years now is just so dominant. And yet the West seems to be the team in the playoffs that just squeaks by the East.
It is strange how things kind of go in cycles, and especially in the East, the Metro Division over the past several years just being loaded with talent. The Atlantic having, a couple of really good teams, but not kind of the top to bottom depth. And, through the offseason and the trade deadline and the draft, it seems like the Metro just keeps getting more stacked with talent. Metro teams keep drafting, winning the draft lotteries and drafting really high or making really good trades to bring in new talent. And, on the one hand, it's great hockey that you get to see in Raleigh pretty frequently with all those teams coming in. On the other hand, you just kind of wish you'd like to catch a break and some big name free agent would go to the West instead and not end up parking in New York or Philly or Washington or Pittsburgh.
Well, we did catch a break with Taylor Hall being traded to Arizona.
That is true. That gets one out of the division.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to bring up with Taylor Hall moving out there. But it's not even just the division, it's the entire East as a beast. Because the East is a beast. Think about it. How many of the top goaltenders in the league are in the East?
Rask, Lundqvist.
Carey Price.
Do you count Anderson?
Yeah, even if you don't count Anderson, Vasilevsky, you count him.
Yeah, we got Murray. There we go. But
Murray's. Murray's made out of glass in my opinion. But yeah,
it's just so hard.
It is, and I think it's because, like Wade said, right? Because the teams are so good, everyone's just trying to get better, and by everyone trying to get better, there's a high level of competition that sits in this one division, really. And you look at the other divisions, when you look at, say, the Pacific or the Central, that sort of competition doesn't really exist. Look at where Arizona is sitting on top of their division. I think they're still sitting on top of their division. But Carolina would be sitting at least second or at least, if not first in that division right now.
Oh, yeah. By a few points. Right now, there's actually a three-way tie at the top of the Pacific with Vegas, Edmonton, and Arizona, all at 44 points. And the Hurricanes have 46. With games in hand.
Philadelphia has 45 in the second wild card spot.
It's just so amazing that at this time of the year, last year, where the Hurricanes were, they were near the bottom of the division, and then they clawed their way back.
Yeah, it's one thing that I noted on Twitter this week as I was doing some math and eventually getting the math correct is that the Canes have been on an amazing run with the point streak. Some good games before that. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. And during that time, they have basically just kind of held serve in the Metro because Washington over their last 10 is 8-2-0. The Islanders are 6-3-1. So the Canes have picked up a point or two on them. Pittsburgh 7-3-0. Even with that run, the Canes only ended up picking up a point on Pittsburgh. Philly's 6-4-0. So the Canes only put, a couple points of separation there. So that big log jam from second to fifth in the Metro, even if you go on a 7-2-1 run, the other teams are so good that you're not going to get a lot of separation.
Yeah, now it's so tight. You're talking about a 3-point difference between second and fifth. I mean, even New York, who is actually, Columbus is picking it back up. They have 38 points, so that only really puts them at an 11-point difference. But
and a 4-game win streak for Columbus, so they're starting to turn it on again.
This is true. Yeah, Columbus is actually, if you've used Money Puck, and I like to use Money Puck, They value a lot of teams and how good they're doing based on their, expected goal strengths and how much time on the power play they spend, how good their penalty kills are, how good their power plays are. Right now, Carolina sits number 1 in their power rankings over there. Number 2 is Columbus. So Columbus is actually starting to turn things around and become a much stronger team than expected.
Very true. Now, we went through a lot with the Hurricanes. Let's head a little bit south and go to the Queen City to check on to the Charlotte Checkers, and they're struggling a bit this year. They're currently 13-3. They're 6th in the division, but they're doing better as of late. And you could credit that to the off season as some players left, some players stayed. There's been up and down with some players like Brian Gibbons coming to and from the Hurricanes, but they're keeping on, and they're trying to claw their way back. We'll see if they can at least make an attempt at defending their title in a few months.
Honestly, it's just par for the course when it comes to AHL title wins, because these players are always looking to move up right after. Hey, I'm a league champion. I'm a Calder Cup champion. I deserve a NHL position. I deserve an NHL slot. And with a team as loaded as Carolina in their prospects, your free agents at that point are going to be hard to re-sign.
Yeah, and then down there, they have their own version of Wade Minter, except it's not their announcer, it's their organist.
That is true. He is a legend.
Yeah, I'm gonna honestly make an attempt to get him on here. Yeah, Greasy Keys. We'll get him on here. I'll message him. I'll message him later. We will get him on here.
Yeah, Greasy Keys would be an interesting person to have a conversation with here, especially on the Checkers and the way they've been going. He's been there for, God, I don't even know how many years he's been there, but he's established himself as a local legend there.
Yeah, and those rings are beautiful. If you don't know, everybody, the Charlotte Checkers got their championship rings the last couple of weeks, and those things are beautiful to look at.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, didn't they get Chubby one too? They had this whole video montage about Chubby getting his big ring with Ned making it for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's so big.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I think we're really blessed in Raleigh to have such a great social media team, and the Checkers continue that tradition by putting a lot of really engaging content up for people to feel like they're a part of the team. And their series around giving, players their rings, especially players who've moved on and they don't see them, has been, kind of an ongoing content series on social that I think the Checkers have really been able to connect with the fans about.
Yeah, very true. Speaking of social media, shout outs to our boy Dan.
Yeah, no, the Carolina Hurricanes social media, as Wade has mentioned, has been an absolute beast, and I think it's only rivaled by one or two teams in the league. And I would say those teams would be the Los Angeles Kings and the Colorado Avalanche. Those might be the only two teams that can actually keep pace with the Carolina Hurricanes in their marketing and social media departments. And it's been a blessing, really.
Avalanche especially has a great social media team. They're very funny.
Oh my gosh, the kale candy canes.
Yeah.
oh, the trolling.
That was cute.
We got the last laugh.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the Canes social does really well is they're able to keep the content entertaining and hockey related and fun, but keep it really positive. And I think a lot of teams try to lean too hard into the, conflict and aggressive nature of the sport. But the Canes have really doubled down on hockey is supposed to be fun. And, I think that from the Storm Surge to the in-game promotions to social really is the mantra of the team. And you can feel good about cheering for the Canes. You can feel good about consuming their content because it is all so fun and positive.
Oh, yeah. Totally
Oh, yeah.
agree.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, who we got next there, Zach?
We are moving on to a place where me, Amanda, and Wade were just there a few weeks ago. We're moving on to Fayetteville. All right. They're currently in 4th place in the SPHL right now and not off by much. They're only off 1st place by 4 points. And they're on a roll since the Red Eye Rowdies and the Hurricanes and everybody was there for a bunch of Jerks night. They have won, let me read this. They've won 6 out of their last 8. And right now their big promotion is Operation Sellout on January 4th. Every ticket is $5. Every ticket.
They have
They've
been really good about building a fan base down there in Fayetteville. And there's
Along
something
with good
interesting
hockey.
about this about Operation Sellout and the way they do things there. Instead of just giving away tickets, selling it at $5 puts a bit of investment from the fans into the tickets, right? Because I was reading or listening to someone, I can't quite remember, but they're talking about how giving away tickets does not build investment because to the fan or even whoever's going, even if say it's their first time to go, there's no investment in that ticket. So say they go, they watch, they don't understand what's happening. The other team scores, and they're like, "Oh, is that it? Is that over? Whatever." Then the team's down by a couple of goals. Instead of like waiting to see if a comeback's happening, they might get disinterested and hey, you want to go do something else, and they leave. Which is so Operation Sellout, $5. Yeah, it's not much of an investment, but it's an investment. And then from there, of course, concessions and everything are a price, and their parking is always free, so there's always that.
It's always a fun time because in the lower levels, such as the FPHL and the SPHL, it's always fun to watch because these guys are hungry. They're not these old veterans that are on their swan song. These are young guys that are fighting to get into the ECHL and the AHL.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
And a
that's
lot of
what's
those guys
going
do
on.
make it up because they get called up to the Atlanta Gladiators, I think, of the ECHL.
Yeah, they've been to the Atlanta Gladiators, the Florida Everblades, the Orlando Sun Bears, to your favorite team, Omar, in the ECHL, the Kansas City Mavericks. But that's what's going on with Fayetteville. They're on a roll. Go see a game. They're a lot of fun. Now we go over to Winston-Salem. Oh my goodness. Can we just rename the FPHL the Thunderbirds League? Because they're owning this league. Since day one, they have owned this league. They're currently 17-1-1.
Wow.
Sounds like college football to me.
It just sounds like domination. It amazes me just how good these guys are and how much they have dominated since day one. If you guys haven't, go to the Thunderbirds game. They get really good crowds. It's really passionate fans. I loved it the one time I've gone so far. It's a great experience. Lower level hockey, in my mind, is really good.
I mean, there's a level for everything, and for those who are trying to get into the sport, trying to get an understanding of the sport, go to your local team. It could be an ECHL team, it could be the NHL team if you're in the Raleigh area, or an SPHL team if you're down in Fayetteville. You could find yourself around the Swamp Rabbits. Go visit them. Go see some of the Carolina Hurricanes prospects in action. Some of the goalies in action who might be coming all the way up to Raleigh here in a couple of years or more. You don't know. So, there's a lot of things to watch on there. I think one of the funniest things about, the Swamp Rabbits is they're a shared minor league team between the Hurricanes and the Panthers. So, guess who's down there? Cliff Pooh, who got traded from Carolina to the Panthers, last season as Don Waddell was really clearing house on that Skinner trade. So he's down there right now trying to build a reason for himself to go back up.
Awkward. Man, but the Swamp Rabbits are doing pretty well. They're 14-1. They're third in their division, and they're being very entertaining. We have a couple of hockey friends down there who go to the Florida Everblades, the Solar Bears, and all them, and it's a fun atmosphere especially when the Florida Everblades and the Swamp Rabbits play each other, as you have the current ECHL team for the Hurricanes and the former ECHL team for the Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
They also had their governor's competition or trophy between the Swamp Rabbits and the South Carolina Stingrays, who are the ECHL affiliate of the Washington Capitals. So I guess that rivalry.
Oh, the rivalry between the
leads
NHL
down.
just spills on down. It's going to be a fun 4 months for a lot of different levels, especially in North Carolina college hockey, which is something Wade's definitely invested in.
That's right. Yeah. Before I got the job with the Hurricanes, I got the job with NC State club hockey, and that kind of prepared me for my journey to the NHL. And the state games are always a ton of fun, whether they're at the Iceplex or whether they're getting the support from the Canes for the Governor's Cup and Backyard Brawl games at PNC Arena, which have just continued to draw more and more fans every time they come. It's fun to watch college hockey. There's some really skilled players here at the local universities, and if you go out to a game, it's going to be a cheap night out, and you're going to see some really fun, exciting hockey played by some skilled players.
Oh, definitely. I was there for the Governor's Cup just a few weeks ago with you, Wade, and oh man, you had at least 50% of the lower bowl filled, so roughly 7,000 fans?
I'd say that's probably pretty accurate. It was completely behind me, wrapping around the non-Olympia end of the rink, going into a couple sections on the other side. So, slightly over half the lower bowl is probably a pretty good guess, and that's one of the biggest lower bowls in the league. So we were able to draw, 7,000-ish people to come see college hockey in the Triangle.
And this is club hockey. It's not NCAA, so there's no scholarships, no nothing. It's these guys just playing.
Right, yeah. The players who were there are participating in a club just like the debate club. They just happen to be on the ice and scoring goals and making hits. It's a checking league, so you can see some good physical play, a lot of skill. NC State went undefeated in the league last year, made it to the Nationals for the first time for any ACCHL team. And while they're not undefeated this year, they still have a ton of talent, maybe even more speed than last year, and they're playing good games against talented teams.
And they are indeed. And looking at the standings right now for the ACHA, which is the whole league that they play under, they're currently ranked 8th in the country.
Wow.
Now, here's the fun part. There's not one team in North Carolina that's ranked, but 2. Wake Forest University is ranked 19th.
Yeah, they're really turning it up. We saw Wake Forest come in here, I think a month or so ago with not really their full roster. They had some campus events going on that prevented them from bringing a full bench. So State was able to handle them relatively easily in Raleigh, and then the Ice Pack went out to Winston-Salem and I believe won with a last-second goal in regulation, but it was definitely a dogfight there. So Wake Forest is really showing their talent.
Yeah, and then you have UNC. They came in and put up a really good fight against the Ice Pack. UNC Charlotte, they're historically good. They won the ACCHL, I believe, 2 years ago. So there's a lot of really good college hockey. That's CAW. But yeah, I'm excited for the history. I'm excited for hockey, college hockey in this day, especially with the new weight competition center. You could possibly just move NC State over there and actually start a NCAA team there with all the seating that they have.
Yeah,
that's going to be a really good facility.
Yeah, tell us more about it. What do you know about it, Wade?
It's been in the works for a while. Jeff Ammons, who built the factory and who runs RCI, is building a multi-sport complex out there by the airport, and one of the crowning jewels of that complex is going to be a 2-sheet NHL size ice facility, one of which is going to have an expansive locker room and team administration area for the Canes, and that side of the rink will have tournament-style seating for several thousand people. Other rink, a little on the smaller side, not as much infrastructure, but that's still another sheet of ice in the area. I believe it has been confirmed that RCI will be closing when that facility opens. Hopefully that's the only closure that we get, and then we'll end up with a net gain of a sheet of ice for the region, which is good because the explosion of youth hockey means that there really isn't enough ice available for all the kids who want to play these days. And then it takes, the beer league adults like me and pushes us even later in the day. So we have to deal with 11 p.m. games on a weeknight. But it's going to be a really nice facility. I think Don Waddell during the groundbreaking was spot on when he said that it's going to be something he can use as a recruiting tool for free agents to show them a beautiful new facility that they'll be practicing in, as opposed to RCI, which is showing its age. And the additional ice just is going to help the game grow even more here in the Triangle.
So, Wade, what do you say to people who say, a practice facility isn't worth anything to free agents, they don't care about that? But I think, having a good practice facility, especially a place that you can, you're going to spend time there during your time with the team. That someplace is going to be almost like a second home. I think that's important. What do you think? How do you feel about that?
I think anything you can put towards player amenities is going to pay off, because there is a salary cap in the NHL and every team's got to operate under that. But there's no salary cap for practice facilities. There's no salary cap for trainers and team staff. There's no salary cap for equipment. So that's a way that a team can differentiate themselves from the competition with things that are not subject to kind of that every team can only spend this much money. So if you're trying to attract a free agent and both teams are offering roughly the same money, both teams have roughly the same amount of cap space, but one team's got a better facility or one team's got better staff, that could be something that sways people. I spent a little bit of time in Minneapolis a couple years ago when I was working there for a job, and that was around the time that the Wild were building their new practice facility in St. Paul. And it was a beautiful facility, and I've heard from a couple folks around the league that the players really like being able to practice there, and it's a good treat for them. So, any sort of incentives that you can give players to consider you over somebody else, I think is just money in the bank.
Now, Wade, there is one part of this facility that I want to ask you about. All
right.
The new weight room. Was that all Rod's idea? Because that thing's massive.
I have not heard specifically, but I would have to imagine that, between him and Bill Burniston, fitness is a key aspect of what the Hurricanes culture is. So being able to have a world-class, training facility right there in the practice rink will probably just lead to more episodes like you'll see on the Canes Social, where after a game, Roddy comes in, pumps the team up with a couple words, and then says, go finish up with Billy. Now you'll be able to do that right after practice, not only at PNC Arena.
Who do you think's going to use the facility more, the players or Rod?
Probably Rod. He'll probably kind of just, move in and live there.
I can see that happening. The man is a beast, and really, his strength and conditioning and what him and Bill are doing has really shown on the ice. When even guys like Sebastian Aho are ragdolling other players.
Oh man, that hit that Svetch had at the early part of yesterday. Whew.
It's a long game, it's a hard game, and if you're conditioned well enough that you can skate the full 60 minutes plus overtime plus shootout and still be fresh for a game the next day, that investment that you're making into training really pays off. And I've noticed that kind of from where I sit, that the Canes conditioning level over the past several years under the Bill Burniston administration is just night and day different than before. And I think that's an advantage in the league. And you saw it during the playoff run last year where the Canes basically played playoff hockey for 6 months and were able, through their conditioning, to keep with it, to have the energy to do it, to keep injuries down to a minimum. And that's really credit to the training staff, and I'm sure, going all the way up to the top with Coach Brindamore.
I mean, I think Coach Brindamore, I think he's starting to solidify himself as probably the best coach in Carolina Hurricanes history. And I think that comes from a dual perspective of him being able to know the game so well and be able to teach it, because there's a lot of players out there, former players, who know the game very well but aren't able to teach it because it comes so naturally to them. Rod Brindamore, that's not the case. To him, he got to where he is through hard work and talent instead of just simply pure talent. And what do you think about him being one of the best coaches in Carolina Hurricanes history?
He's, small sample size, but he's certainly been a breath of fresh air, especially, as we're finding out some things about the Bill Peters administration that are not necessarily the best. Having a guy that's universally respected by the players, by the fans, by the league, and who can bring really good coaching is really a gift, I think, that we have in Raleigh. And for somebody who's always been known for having an old school mentality, I think one of the most underrated things about Rod Brindamore as a coach is he realizes that the players of, the late 2010s are different than the players of the 80s and 90s. They need different things. They're motivated by different things. And he's humble enough and a hard worker enough that he's willing to kind of change what is probably the approach that he grew up with in order to get the most out of his players. And I think you're seeing that with players coming to Raleigh, blossoming. I think you're seeing that with people who want to stay here. And I think the rest of the league is taking notice that his approach of hard work, accountability, but a flexibility with the modern player is something that they need to start to emulate.
Absolutely.
And that's especially true with the Michigan goals that Svechnikov has been pulling off, something that no one in the NHL has done. And Brindamore has embraced it. He says, he's basically saying that he encourages it. If it's there, it's there. Take your shot if you want to. But he's not saying, oh, don't do it, it's low class. He's saying if you can do it, do it. And Svech has done it.
Sure. At the end of the day, the results are what matters. And, from a team perspective, buzz around the team, fans being excited to come to games because they don't know what they're going to see. They might see a crazy Svech goal. They might see Sebastian Aho hat trick. They might see a storm surge. It all just kind of feeds into building an electric atmosphere and making the team relevant in the market and nationally. It's one of those things that, from last year, so many things that the Hurricanes are doing are resonating throughout the entire hockey community. Sometimes people like them, sometimes they don't, but it's better to be talked about than be forgotten. And, you certainly can't, make the claim that the Hurricanes are forgotten anymore.
Absolutely not. Really, the efforts between Rod Brindamore and his flexibility, as you say it, and I think it's hilarious because when the storm surge first happened, of course, everyone remembers Don Cherry's rant. He keeps continuing to say, Rod Brindamore is a straight shooter. I can't believe he would allow this. Why? Why can you not believe it? The man understands the players. He understands that, hey, they're kids who want to have fun. And the same thing with the Svechnikov lacrosse style goals. It's about reporting from Sarah who'd say that Rod would shake his head, but he still practiced it with Svechnikov after the games, and then he would allow Svechnikov to run his own little camp. He ran a camp with Martin Aegis and I can't remember who else. Oh, was it Brock McGinn or Warren Fogle? He ran a camp with them about how to do the lacrosse goals, and it was adorable and it was cute. But that's good coaching. That's good coaching to allow players to feel like there's an investment in the team and in them.
Absolutely. It's building that team camaraderie, and whether it's goofing around with lacrosse goals for people who may or may not be able to pull it off in a game, going to Banff, doing scooter tours around North Hills, you can tell the team really just genuinely likes each other. They like working together. They're willing to go to the wall for each other, and that's really all you can ask for a coach to get out of their team.
Have you tried it yet, Wade?
I can't lift the puck off the ice even if I'm shooting, so much less pick it up. Although one of the Motley Crue players, Danielle Thomas, she's working on it all the time, and we have our team scrimmage coming up over the Christmas break where we just get out there and have some fun. And it wouldn't shock me to see Danielle try or possibly even succeed with a lacrosse goal during the black-white scrimmage.
Just don't let her score it on you.
I will not be playing in goal for that one. I will be on defense, so I will make sure that if she goes behind the net, I'm putting a body on her.
There we go. There we go.
But
All right, let's look into the Canes' upcoming schedule through the new year. They start Monday, the 23rd, in Toronto. It'll be a nice matchup with
it'll be
Austin
an early
Matthews, John
matchup.
Tavares.
That is a 2
Oh yeah,
p.m.
it's 2
game,
o'clock.
folks.
Well, what is that?
I hope this goes better than the last early afternoon game in Toronto that we did a couple years ago, where I believe we got blanked 8-0. My
they were
wife and I
playing
took
It
the
was
day
a
off.
blowout.
Yeah, my wife and I took the day off. We went out to the L House for the watch party, and it was not a good time. So ideally, we can shake that monkey off our back in Toronto. Early afternoon game. I think I'm going to go watch it with some friends because I'll be off work, and hopefully go up into Toronto and play like we did on the road trip and get a couple points.
Yeah,
I'll be
last time that
listening
was
while at work.
last time that was against the Toronto Arenas. Remember that? They wore
That's true, the
throwback.
Heritage game.
Well, it was Heritage for them. I don't know why they
my.
wouldn't let us wear the Whalers. That would have been interesting.
Perfect. There we go. That makes it even better. All right, and then after that, they get a nice little time off. They get to come home, enjoy Christmas with their families, and then on Friday the 27th, we head back to Madison Square Garden. Oh boy.
I don't know what it is with Madison Square Garden, but we need to figure out that place because the Rangers aren't good. They're
we
lucky,
just need to figure
but
out
they're not good.
Lundqvist.
It's true. But that is back-to-back for us because we come back home the next day, and who do we take on? I think
It's rivalry day.
That's right. We take on the Washington Capitals. So it's a really important 2 games for us to take some, make some room for us in the Metro. At least room between us and the first wild card, because right now there is no room.
Oh yeah. It's actually the first time we're playing the Capitals since the second game of the season on October 5th when we beat them in Washington in overtime.
I think the league's starting to realize that there is a rivalry there, that there is a general consensus of value to these games, so I think they're spreading them out, which is a good thing.
That is entirely true. It's a definitely good thing. And then the last game of the year is on the last day of the year as we come home again to face the Montreal Canadiens.
Wait, do you consider the Montreal Canadiens to be an actual rivalry team to us, or is that just a hubbub over the offer sheet that's going to go away?
I think there's the genesis of what could turn into a rivalry there. Rivalries generally get built in the playoffs more so than anything if you don't have a very, very close geography in play. The drama around Sebastian Aho and the offer sheet and the general kind of saltiness of Habs fans, I think has kind of raised the ire of people in Raleigh. But I don't think at this point, just because the teams haven't met on the ice that much, there's really kind of the same level of rivalry you get with Washington or, Pittsburgh or the New York area teams. That said, if you make the playoffs and end up facing the Habs in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think you could definitely see a kickstart of a rivalry that could last for quite a while.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the general saltiness of Canadiens fans because there's a video circling around on social media of a bunch of Canadiens fans getting in a brawl inside the arena.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah, bless their hearts. It's getting nasty up in Canada.
Canadian,
And you want to talk about general saltiness? How about the Winnipeg Jets fans booing Svechnikov's lacrosse goal? That's salty.
I think they were booing the refs for the missed call.
I don't know. I think that it's warranted if someone scores a goal like that on you in your building to be like, oh, come on, guys, you really couldn't stop it.
So salty. But that wraps up the year for us, and then guess what? January 3rd, guess who we face?
Mm.
It's the Capitals again in PNC.
Yeah, I think that would be must-see hockey right there.
We just can't get away.
We just can't get away from them no matter what, because they keep saying, "Oh, we're not rivals." Oh, bring it on, Caps fans.
Hmm.
We
Well, I
will
can
march right
understand
back
that
there.
because you're really as good as your worst nemesis, right? And the Capitals have really tried to paint Sidney Crosby and the Penguins as their nemesis, but quite honestly, there just hasn't been enough hubbub between those two teams for a while.
Yeah, and
Like
it kind of
Wade
ebbs
said.
and flows with the playoffs. There was a stretch of time there where the Caps and Penguins met in the playoffs like every year. Same way that happened with the Hurricanes and the Devils back when the Canes were consistently in the playoffs prior to last year's run. There became that, oh, we're seeing these people again in a playoff series that matters, and that kind of feeds into rivalry for a few years. Now that you don't really see the Caps and the Penguins meeting in the playoffs, I think that has cooled to some extent. It's just a team that comes into your building twice a year. You'd like to beat them. But the teams that you face in the playoffs are the teams that you might struggle with in the playoffs or upset you. I think that's where the next generation of rivalry is going to come from.
Yeah,
Very true.
well said.
Yeah, but here's something that might be of interest is maybe coming up soon we'll get an announcement for next year's Stadium Series. Maybe. Especially since the outdoor game's coming up, maybe we'll get a little tease from the league.
Usually is early in the year that they make the announcements for the next year's outdoor games. I could see absolutely this next year being the year. The only question is who becomes a rival in that game, because I would have wanted to see it be Nashville, but Nashville is playing January 1st against Dallas Stars down in Texas in their outdoor game. So question becomes, do we invite the Capitals down here, or will the league try to get another team that does not have an outdoor game out of the way?
Or more likely, they'll probably stick the Chicago Blackhawks in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. How many games have they played?
All of them.
They show up to each one just in case.
Yeah, they're like, we got our gear. You guys need a team?
Oh, my goodness. Speaking
But honestly,
of outdoor
I
games.
would want to see Tampa. I'd
Oh,
like to
that'd
see
be good.
Tampa or Florida, maybe some more Tampa. And I kind of wrote something along those lines for Cardiac Keen, where imagine diagonal versus diagonal jerseys.
Yeah, there you go. I think from my perspective, the teams I'd like to see are the teams I think are more likely. I think you have a pretty good shot of seeing Washington just because I think the league has recognized that that'll be a fun game, especially after the 7-game series last year and, at least one exciting game so far this year. I think you could look at some of the teams that travel really well or have a large presence in the Triangle. Penguins, Sabres, Red Wings, the New York area teams, if they want to try to get, a full stadium of both local fans as well as fans of the opposing team. And then if you want to kind of go off the board and have a Southern hockey, Nashville would have been my first choice. But I think you're right that because they're playing in the Winter Classic this year, that's unlikely to happen. So getting a team like the Florida Panthers, Columbus, maybe kind of get a team that hasn't played an outdoor game before, give them a shot there, could be part of the league's thinking. But I would imagine it would be something a little more of a rivalry game, either with the Caps or one of the Northeast teams.
Yeah, how many seats does Carter Finley have? I want to say about 53,000.
I believe it's over 60.
I think the capacity right now is 57,000 according to the wiki.
That's right. It's about 57, but I think, with maybe some closer seats to the ice, there could be a chance. Right now, Wiki's Carter Finley picture is the picture with the cones, which I think is hilarious.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, it is. Oh my goodness.
It's happening, folks. Get excited. And what's great about Carter Finley is the sight lines, especially for a hockey game, is incredible. So, long story short, we got my father-in-law tickets to go see the Winter Classic a couple years ago between the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks, and they were watching it in Cardinals
Busch Stadium.
Busch Stadium, and they should be reasonable tickets. The problem was it was reasonable tickets if you were watching a baseball game, and unfortunately that did not translate well enough. He said that they just got up and they walked up to the causeway to get a better view of the game. But Carter Finley, on the other hand, has excellent sight lines. Just the way the seats are, they're a little bit more steep, which allows for more people to get a better bird's eye view of the ice, hopefully. So how do we feel about people who say that it shouldn't be Carter Finley that we go watch the game at, or that should host the game, but instead should be Bank of America in Charlotte?
No. Just no.
Wade, how do you feel about that?
I'm, not a huge fan of it. I think Carter Finley has the advantage of being very familiar to Canes fans. It's got a great infrastructure. It shares infrastructure with PNC Arena, so moving the equipment back and forth will be a breeze. And, the folks in Raleigh and the folks in the Triangle, I think, want to see the success of the team recognized here. So, Carter Finley is certainly the only logical option in town.
Absolutely. And I can think of, imagine them coming from the locker rooms in PNC, dressing there, and then walking that short distance between PNC Arena and Carter Finley, and having like the fans out there, kind of a very long, wide kind of tunnel, fan tunnel of sorts.
It's going to be, I think, interesting, assuming that the team gets the game, and all signs are pretty positive that might happen, how they choose to kind of tie in the infrastructure of the football stadium and the hockey arena located literally next door to each other. I think the team has shown that they're very creative, and that's an opportunity for them to showcase even more creativity in how they merge those two facilities.
My opinion is the Hurricanes get dressed inside the NC State locker room, and they come out of NC State's tunnel with the smoke past the Wolfpack statue like the football team would. And then that's where you have the fan tunnel. Is that as soon as they come out of the tunnel heading towards the ice, that's where you put the fan tunnel.
There's certainly a lot of options, and I'm excited to see how they choose to do this. Like Wade said, the team has proven nothing but extreme creativity in the recent times. So, hey, let's one baby steps. Let's try to get to see if we get a game and who we get to play against, and then from there, really, kind of let's see what we do here. But I can absolutely tell you that if this does happen, or when this does happen, it will be a wonderful event that will probably properly be advertised and used. So I'm really excited to see where that goes.
As we all. Well, I think that will just about do it for this episode, but before we do everything, first of all, we want to say Merry Christmas, and
I do want to add a couple of things, however. We didn't touch on the Women's League this episode as of yet.
Oh, we didn't. That was, I missed it on the list. All right, Amanda, you're up.
Bear with me. So just announced, the PWHPA announced a showcase for Philadelphia, February 29th through March 1st. Tickets are on sale now. That sounds really neat. I was all ready to go, and then I remembered I have a ticket to the Canes Bash on March 1st, so I won't be able to go. But all of our favorite women's players will be there, and including Alyssa. She'll be there as well. Kelsey Colzer, and a few of our other favorites. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm hoping that they'll get even closer to the area. I was excited about it because it is drivable. It's about 6.5 hours to the Philadelphia area-ish. So it's good. It's coming closer. I just hope it gets even closer so that we can have some amazing female talent in this area showcased. So we'll see how that goes. In the NWHL, the Boston are still on top. The Boston Pride with 24 points. Minnesota's at 14. Buffalo's at 13. Our friend Colleen Murphy and the Metropolitan Ribbers are at 8 in 4th place. And Connecticut's still at 1. So, it's still going. There was a big gap in November for games, but it's picking back up. And, you can still view it on Twitch. You can also view the too many letters, PWHPA games online as well. And you can see that showcase online too. So it's getting there. They're running. They're doing pretty great right now. Picking up sponsors here and there, both sides. So, just keep rolling.
All right. Well, I think that'll be about it. First of all, we would like to thank our guest, H. Wade Minter. Thank you for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we'll see you at the next home game.
Absolutely.
Sure will. Thanks for coming on.
This was Revolution Rampage. I hope everyone's having a wonderful holiday. Words are hard. And
always.
And we'll see you next year or next decade. Haha, slipped into that joke. All right.
It's not crazy.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Festivus, Merry Kwanzaa, just happy holidays in general. Everybody, just have a great end of December and Happy New Year. Cheers to a new decade.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this decade will come with a Stanley Cup championship for the Carolina Hurricanes and maybe even more championships for all the minor league teams they belong to. So, this is going to be wonderful. All right.